Jones for Hilliman. On third down, ball comes out. Picked up by the Patriots, and Van Noy dives. And they mark him out at the 2. Collins was in on the tackle, and the ball came out. Let's take another look.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's your boy HP, and you're listening to the Unsportsmanlike Conduct Podcast, a podcast covering football and everything New York Giants. Episode 25 is going to cover the New York Giants' loss to the New England Patriots 35-14 on a Thursday Night Football Week 6 matchup on the road at Foxborough. But before I do get started with my analysis, I want everyone to please make sure you subscribe to my YouTube channel. I'm also on Twitter, so please make sure you follow me on Twitter. That's _unsportsman. I'm also on Instagram, so please follow me on Instagram. That's _unsportsmanlike_conduct. So let's get right into this post-game analysis. The New York Giants defense had given our team a fighter's chance, because before then, no one gave us a chance to even compete against the New England Patriots. The New England Patriots came in with a huge spread, I believe, and the New York Giants offense were out with their key players. We didn't have Saquon because he had the high ankle sprain. His backup, Wayne Gallman, was out with the concussion. Sterling Shepard, our number one wide receiver, was out with the concussion that he sort of re-aggravated during the Minnesota Vikings game. And then even in that same game, Evan Engram apparently had I believe a sprained MCL. So 4 of our key offensive players were not on the field against this number one New England Patriots defense. And that showed. And I'm going to get to the offense, but I do want to start with the defense because that was the brightest spot of the whole game. And there were some missed tackles. There were some ugly plays. I mean, we did give up some big pass plays here and there. But overall, I thought, especially in the first half, I mean, we played some pretty great football. And the New York Giants defense was essentially the reason why all of us New York Giants fans were able to watch all 4 quarters of this football game. Because I'll be honest with you, I wasn't looking forward to even watching this game. My coworkers asked me, what were going to be my thoughts about the game. I thought it was going to be a blowout from the get-go. I thought it was going to be a short night. I thought by the first half I'd turn the game off, go to sleep, and then the next day, Friday night, record the podcast, release it, and let all the fans cope with the loss. And I know a loss is a loss, and there's no such things as good losses, but this loss was a little bit different. I wasn't frustrated as much throughout the whole game as I have been, as compared to the other games or to the other 3 losses that we had in addition to this one. The New York Giants defense kept us in the game. We had a rookie quarterback who was unable to move the ball down the field because we were out with our 2 main running backs. Obviously, Saquon Barkley, one of the best running backs in the game. His backup, Wayne Gallman, who was more than serviceable. We were out with our number 1 receiver, and then we were out with actually the number 1 tight end in the game. As of now, Evan Engram is the number 1 tight end in the game. It shows even from a fantasy football perspective, he's ranked number 1. The reason why I know this is because I have him on my fantasy football team. But, I just want to give a big kudos. And I think, I want to start with the pass rush. Because early on, I felt like we sort of maintained a presence. We created a presence. The pocket crumbled. While we may not have, always gotten to the quarterback right away, I felt like, we forced Tom Brady to shift around the pocket a bit. And Tom Brady's not used to dancing around in the pocket. He's one of the more immobile quarterbacks in the NFL. And I thought we did a great job of, sort of crumbling the pocket pretty quickly. And it showed. Because we ended up with 6 QB hits and 3 quarterback sacks. Against the Minnesota Vikings last week, we had a total of 3 quarterback hits with 3 sacks. So definitely an improvement. I mean, we doubled our quarterback hits. Against the New England Patriots offensive line, that's a pretty formidable offensive line. And while we did give up 114 rushing yards, I thought in the first half we contained this run game. I mean, I'm looking at the stat line now. Sony Michel, their lead back, 22 carries for 86 yards. That's 3.9 yards per carry. With the exception of one of the longer runs for 26 yards, we contained them. The first half, this defense certainly contained the New England Patriots run game. which I thought sort of made Tom Brady a little bit uneasy, and that's why the New England Patriots weren't as sharp as they were. I actually think they did more damage from their running backs, with James White, because James White was catching the ball out of the backfield, and similarly to what Dalvin Cook was doing to us. But just a little bit, way more or less, actually, yards after the catch. Because James White actually had 9 catches for 46 yards. But, kudos to Lorenzo Carter for bursting off the line, getting off the edge, and forcing a strip sack on Tom Brady, where Marcus Golden recovers that football and returns it in for a touchdown. I mean, that was obviously huge for the New York Giants. So I wanted to give a big kudos to those two guys. Marcus Golden also himself ends up getting a sack. Marcus Golden has been our best pass rusher all season long so far. And when the Giants had signed him, I think, there was a lot of expectation that Marcus Golden would have a pretty good year, because I think back in 2016, and I'll actually look it up for you guys because I don't want to guess and be incorrect, but it was a couple of years ago where Marcus Golden was an outside linebacker for James Bettcher in the Arizona Cardinals with the Arizona Cardinals, and he had a pretty good year. So yeah, it was actually in 2016. Marcus Golden had 12.5 sacks. So when the Giants had signed him this past, when the Giants had signed him in the offseason, the expectation was that Marcus Golden can end up doing the same thing. I think last year he was hurt predominantly, so, it showed. He has 5 sacks so far in 5 games. Marcus Golden has 5 sacks in 5 games, so he's, you can argue that he's on pace to get his 12.5 sacks. Because you would think by week 8, he'll definitely have 6 to 7 sacks. So Marcus Golden has been our best pass rusher this season, and which was the surprising thing about the sack that he had against Tom Brady. It actually came between the guard and the tackle. Usually he lines up on the outside because he is an outside linebacker. So I thought that was a really good job by Marcus Golden, and even James Bettcher sort of moved him around the line because that certainly showcased that there. I also want to give a big kudos to Jabril Peppers, because Jabril Peppers was all over the field, especially in the run game. And over the last 2 games, Jabril Peppers has really shown just an improvement in the run game, and an improvement of always being on the screen, always being around the ball and making plays. And it's sort of reminding me of sort of the presence that Landon Collins had on the New York Giants, where, if no one else is making plays, you see that guy making plays. Jabril Peppers finished with 10 total sacks. 10 total tackles with 8 solo tackles. So 80% of his total tackles came on his own. I even want to give a big shout out to DeAndre Baker, who I thought for the most part had a pretty decent game. I thought he was playing some pretty tight coverage. Yeah, he gave up a couple of catches here or there, but I don't feel like, I thought most of our big catches came in zone coverage. Which ends up happening. If you run a zone coverage defense, there's going to be a lot of holes out there. And zone coverage results in other areas of the field having soft coverage. And what I mean by that is that once the snaps get called, DBs have to go to their coverage areas and sort of remain around those areas. And based on how the receivers are running their routes, either cornerbacks decide to commit to a certain aspect of their zone or play that drive wrong and end up getting out of their zone and leaving other spots open. So as a result of that creates soft coverage in other areas of the football field. And I thought Tom Brady was able to expose that a lot. And I think a lot of that came in the middle of the field because, again, we don't have linebackers that can cover the middle of the field. But when we did run man-to-man coverage, I thought DeAndre Baker did as well as anyone can be out there as a corner, as a good cornerback. I thought, there was a couple of plays where he actually held Julian Edelman pretty tightly. So just really good signs on him, because I think over the last couple of games, his name hasn't been getting called a lot. He hasn't been giving up a lot of big plays as he did, obviously against the Dallas Cowboys, and then even in week 2 against the Buffalo Bills. So I thought those two guys did well, and I would actually, I want to say the MVP of the New York Giants was David Mayo. David Mayo showed up to play. This guy was making great tackles near the line of scrimmage. If they weren't, tackles for losses, there were tackles for either no gain or for a couple of yards. David Mayo was probably one of the main reasons why the run game for the New England Patriots wasn't working well in the first half. We played as about as great of a first half as the New York Giants possibly could. And I was very, very proud of James Betcher and just the whole squad. And I do have a top 5 themes of that first half, which I thought was the reason why the Giants were in the game and possibly even had a chance to win if we had the chance to even move the ball down the field and convert some of our third downs. We were able to generate some pass rush. 3 QB hits and 2 sacks in that first half. So in the first half, we were able to match the previous week's number of QB hits, which was against the Minnesota Vikings, where we had 3 quarterback hits. And then we also did a good job of containing the run, as I previously mentioned. And then we created 2 turnovers. Everyone knows that first turnover where the interception to Janoris Jenkins. And the good thing about that interception was Janoris Jenkins not only intercepted that ball, but he had a great return on that ball. Unfortunately, Marcus Golden, I believe it was either Marcus Golden or Antoine Bethea who ended up pushing Tom Brady, and that ended up sort of setting us back another 10 to 15 yards where we would have originally had the ball after that interception return. But nevertheless, great interception there. And then obviously, as I previously talked about, that Lorenzo Carter sort of strip sack on Tom Brady where Marcus Golden recovers and returns for a touchdown, which was huge, right? Because that's essentially what had us in the game. Because we weren't scoring points any other way anyways. And I just wanted to sort of sidetrack a bit. Lorenzo Carter was my dark horse coming into this season as the guy that was going to be our premier pass rush. That's the guy who I thought was going to elevate his game to another level. And to be quite frank with you, he hasn't. He's been sort of a no-show or, sort of the start of the season. I know he was injured last week, but for the most part, I just don't feel like he was always on the screen. And that's what I do, right? When I evaluate these games, I like to see who's leaving a reaction to me. I shouldn't have to go back and watch the whole football game or watch back the tape to see who did well and who didn't do well. If your name's getting called for good reasons or for bad reasons, that's how I know if you're playing well or not. If you're jumping out on the screen, if you're making plays, if you're near the ball every single time, if you're a crucial part of the run game and stopping the run or even containing the run, those are the types of things I'm looking for in a linebacker. Are you getting pressure? Are you hitting the quarterback? When you're not one of the main guys that's hitting the quarterback week in and week out, that leads me to believe you're a no-show. And Lorenzo Carter has been a disappointment for this season. But that was the best play so far by Lorenzo Carter. So I do want to give a big kudos to him. And hopefully, he sort of keeps this momentum going because he almost had another sack on Tom Brady in a similar fashion. But Tom Brady, as everyone knows, has a deadly quick release. And he was just a hair late on getting behind Tom Brady. But he was going to have another sack, and it was probably going to be another forced fumble. Because on that very same play, Lorenzo Carter got a great burst off the line, great burst right off the snap, and got behind that tackle. But unfortunately, Tom Brady found, I believe, at that point again, was also Julian Edelman, pretty wide open in the middle of the field for a catch and some yak afterwards. But a similar theme as for the Minnesota Vikings, we missed some tackles. We missed some tackles that created some yards after the catch. They did run a lot of dump plays and screen plays to their running backs and Julian Edelman and all their other wide receivers. And, because we missed tackles, we gave first downs. And, someone who I saw missing a lot of tackles, our DBs can't tackle. But if our DBs are in positions where they're missing tackles, that probably means because our linebackers aren't there. So I think our linebackers need to do a better job of pursuit. Obviously, this is excluding David Mayo because I thought David Mayo had, as good as a game as a linebacker could have. But one guy I do want to single out, especially because I raved about him all offseason, is Alec Ogletree. Alec Ogletree was missing tackles left and right. He did have that one nasty spin move sack on Tom Brady, but my God, he was an embarrassment to watch. It was so hard to watch Alec Ogletree. I mean, he looks bad. He hasn't had a good season at all this year, but yesterday it was clearly evident that this guy can't play the linebacker position. He couldn't bring guys down. I mean, there was even one play where I believe it was I think it was Sony Michel. He attempted to tackle Sony Michel 2 times, and Sony Michel broke that tackle both of those attempts in the same run play. Alec Ogletree, I don't know what it is about him. He just can't make plays for the New York Giants. And I don't know what his contract situation looks like. I don't know if there's going to be dead money if we ended up releasing them at the end of the year, but they do need to reconsider his role on this team. And now I want to talk about two key drives where the New York Giants got clutch stops that I thought would have resulted in a New York Giants touchdown, some New York Giants points on the board, but unfortunately, they didn't. Unfortunately, we ended up punting, and then subsequently after that, we ended up having a fumble return that ended up going for a touchdown and essentially put the game out of reach. But at this point, the game is 14-21. The New York Giants are down a score, and it was in the third quarter, and the New England Patriots ended up having a 16-play drive that ended up going for 60 yards and lasted 9 minutes and 25 seconds. Folks, for those of you who don't know, who aren't familiar with football, a quarter is 15 minutes long. So that means in 16 plays, the New England Patriots on one single drive held the ball for a little over half of a quarter's worth of football. The New England Patriots, they mixed it up. They kept feeding Sony Michel. They kept running plays for James White out of the backfield for him to catch balls out of the backfield. The receivers were making plays and timely conversions on third downs. But yeah, this drive was a really, really long drive, and I actually think there was a defensive holding on Janoris Jenkins on this drive that ended up, which could have actually resulted in a turnover on downs early at the 4-minute and 22nd minute mark of the third quarter. But because of that holding play, the drive ended up extending a little bit longer. But just to give you guys some context, the New England Patriots started this drive with 12 minutes in the third quarter at their own 18-yard line, and this drive ended with 2 minutes and 47 seconds left in the third quarter at the New York Giants' 22-yard line. But when push came to shove, the New England Patriots weren't able to convert on the New York Giants. That was your typical sort of defensive stance where it was a bend, don't break defense. We made a key stop on that 3rd and 5. There was a short pass to James White and Alec Ogletree. As much as everyone is killing him, and even I just recently killed him, a couple of seconds ago, Alec Ogletree made a great tackle on James White out of the backfield, which ended up resulting in for a negative 3-yard loss. But that whole 16-play drive for 60 yards ended up resulting in a field goal attempt by their New England Patriots' new kicker, Mike Nugent, which was a 40-yard field goal. And fortunately for the New York Giants, it was missed. It was a missed field goal that still kept the New York Giants in the game, and we're still down 1 touchdown. But unfortunately, the play after that, the offense just couldn't, convert enough third downs. We converted 1 3rd and 6, and then after that, we found ourselves on a 3rd and 8, and which was just terrible play calling. I don't understand why we're calling pass plays to Eli Penny. Why was Eli Penny, why is he being so featured in the offense? I understand that we're down 2 of our starting, or 2 of our RB, the top 2 running backs in our offense. But, you have to be realistic here. Be a little more aggressive at this point. Momentum is a big thing in the NFL, and sometimes play calling can kill your own team's momentum. So as a result, that was a punt, and that drive was really quick. We got the ball, we ended up getting the ball back because of that missed field goal with 2 minutes and 47 seconds left on the clock, and the drive essentially lasted the remainder of the third quarter. And the Patriots ended up getting the ball subsequently after in the beginning of the fourth quarter, and that play also went for 9. That drive actually went for 9 plays and 48 yards for a total of 5 minutes. And this is where the New England Patriots try to go for a 4th and 5 on the Giants' 32-yard line, and we played a great down and distance. It was 4th and 5, and the New York Giants had a great defensive stance, forcing a turnover on downs, and this is where I thought, okay, this might be it. I think this is going to be the momentum shifter, 2 straight defensive stops. The Giants have to score the ball here. And now I want to get into my analysis of the offense, because my God, while I understand we don't have Saquon Barkley, we don't have Sterling Shepard, Evan Engram, and even our backup Wayne Gallman, we couldn't move the ball at all. And that next play the next drive only lasted 3 plays. And it ended with a screenplay to John Hillman, who ends up getting tackled immediately after the catch, resulting in another fumble. And Van Noy recovers the fumble, returns it for a touchdown. where the game ends up being 28-14 and completely takes the New York Giants out of contention of even making a comeback, because at that point you're down 2 scores and there was no way for the New York Giants to even make a comeback at that point because we couldn't even convert third downs. I mean, there was a point in the first half we didn't convert a third down. And we had about 7 to 8 total drives in the first half. That's a lot of offensive football that we didn't convert on and that we didn't get enough yards on. When you have 7 to 8 drives, you know what that means? That means the defense did its part and you didn't. That means the defense gave you enough opportunities. The defense gave the New York Giants offense enough opportunities to move the ball down the field, even at least put up a field goal. But the Giants offense didn't get the job done. And again, I get it. We were down. We were hurt. We were missing our key offensive weapons. But, I mean, it was hard to watch. From an offensive perspective, it was hard to watch because you see the defense just fighting their hearts out. And then Daniel Jones gets the ball under center and throws these ridiculous interceptions. And I want to talk about Daniel Jones because I'm still supporting Daniel Jones. That's my quarterback, and I'm going to love him until he's no longer New York Giants quarterback. But Daniel Jones, I mean, you need to... What's going on? It's like some plays Daniel Jones is deadly and freakishly accurate, and then in other plays he is just, you sort of scratch your head on sort of why was that throw as inaccurate as it was? And when I talk about that first interception where the pass is supposed to go to Golden Tate on a crossing route. And on a crossing route, the ball goes behind Golden Tate. The ball gets tipped. The ball gets tipped and ends up resulting in an interception. I mean, that's something that you have to aim to Golden Tate's inside arm so Golden Tate can reach out away from the defender and even away from his own numbers, his own jersey for that football. Now, while that was tight coverage overall, though, don't get me wrong. So I'm not guaranteeing that Golden Tate even brings that ball down, but at least it won't be an interception. And Daniel Jones wasn't, completely under duress on that play either. I just don't know what happened. And there's been a couple of times where, I feel like Daniel Jones throws the ball gets tipped, and you're sort of scared as the ball's in the air. But fortunately, the balls usually drop. But last night, I mean, that ended up not working for us, and the ball got tipped and intercepted. With short yardage situation. It was a short yardage in turn after that first interception. Then the second interception where, Daniel Jones he's holding on to the ball, and this is the main thing that I've seen, even against the Minnesota Vikings, where Daniel Jones just doesn't let up. He doesn't know how to throw away the ball. Sometimes you just have to throw away the ball. And young quarterbacks, rookie quarterbacks especially, will always make that mistake where they're afraid to take hits. They're afraid to take a sack. And for some reason, he rolls out to the left. The linebackers are coming in. He's getting pressured, and he just throws it to, I think there was no receivers in the vicinity. Ends up resulting in an interception. An inexcusable throw, a head scratcher certainly there as well. And that's sort of some of these gut-wrenching interceptions where you're forcing the defense to continuously go back out there so soon after they just sort of fought their asses off to make sure they don't give up points. Talk about sort of momentum-shifting type of plays, where the defense goes out, plays great, and you think that the Giants have all the momentum and their offense comes out and lays an egg. Now, I want to, again, put an asterisk on this because we didn't have Saquon, we didn't have Shepard, and we didn't have Engram. But, that's still no excuse to throw some of these interceptions that he threw. And then what about that interception that fell right in Gilmore's hands? I don't know what happened there either. I don't know if Daniel Jones thought that was going to be an out route to the sideline. I don't know. There's clearly some miscommunication there, but because usually, obviously, look, when quarterbacks throw the football, they throw it in I don't know how to explain this, but when a quarterback throws the football, they throw it in anticipation. And what I mean by that is that they throw the football expecting the receiver to get to that point in time of where that football is supposed to land. So I'm not entirely sure what happened with that route, where that route was exactly supposed to go. But I thought that maybe Daniel Jones thought that the receiver would have ended up being in front of Stephon Gilmore at that point. But even then, Stephon Gilmore's just sitting there. He was going to be able to jump that out route anyways. And just interceptions like that kill you. And I'm not saying Daniel Jones is supposed to have great games every single game. I mean, we saw it even in Eli's prime. Some of these classic 3-4 interception games with even no touchdowns. But these interceptions kill the Giants. It kills momentum. It just simply does. I'm not trying to blame Daniel Jones on this loss. I'm not trying to, because I'm sensitive to the fact that we didn't have our weapons. And honestly, I think if we had our weapons, we beat the New England Patriots. Because the score shows 35-14, but 2 of those touchdowns came off of bad turnovers. One of them was a punt block near the end zone, recover for a touchdown. The other one, was caused by a catch fumble from John Hillman, who would have never seen the light of day if Wayne Gallman and Saquon Barkley were healthy. And John Hillman actually just got released today. We signed Buck Allen, the former Ravens running back. Stuff like that doesn't happen if we're healthy. I don't know, Daniel Jones maybe doesn't have to rush around the pocket and try to keep plays alive. I mean, think about it. Daniel Jones was trying to keep plays alive, but he couldn't find receivers open because receivers weren't getting separation. I don't think that's something that Daniel Jones suffers with if we have Sterling Shepard or Evan Engram, because those two will bring a whole nother dynamic to the offense. I mean, Darius Slayton was lining up against Stephon Gilmore. I mean, man, come on, that's a mismatch. Darius Slayton shouldn't be lining up like that. Darius Slayton should be causing mismatches to other safeties or linebackers who aren't as fast as Darius Slayton is. But when you line him up, man-to-man on the outside on Stephon Gilmore is one of the best man-to-man DBs in the game. We just didn't have enough weapons. I understand. But interceptions are interceptions, and those did cause us. I mean, you have to put some blame on Daniel Jones. Every time the defense gave the New York Giants offense another opportunity to get back into the game or to tie the game or to even take a lead, we never took advantage of that. That's at some point, I mean, come on. That's at some point you have to put the blame on Daniel Jones, even if he is a rookie. This is New York. We want to win now. And even if we don't win, we want to see some progress. Daniel Jones, I mean, I know this was a tough defense. I know New England is the number one defense. We didn't have our weapons, but interceptions are interceptions. Turnovers are turnovers. I do again think the story is different if we have our weapons. But I can't give this excuse completely and let Daniel Jones slide. We didn't have a running game again. You don't have a good running back, you won't be able to run the ball well. Right? I mean, we tried to run with John Hillman, we tried to run with Eli Penny, and we couldn't get a good running game going. I mean, I'm going to actually look up the stat line because I don't think we had that many big plays. We rushed 16 times for 52 yards. That's 3.3 yards per carry. The longest run of the day was a 10-yard run by John Hillman. And the next leading rusher, guess who is our quarterback? Daniel Jones, 2 rushes for 8 yards. Because Eli Penny ran 3 times for 6 yards. So, of course, when you run for 3.3 yards per carry, you have 52 total rushing yards, and that's including 8 yards from the quarterback. Of course, your offense once again becomes one-dimensional. I understand. But I did see some good signs overall. There was a good spirit from the New York Giants. It showed that the New York Giants wanted to win. The New York Giants wanted to play ball. Despite Daniel Jones' poor performance, despite the fact that we were injured, there was a fighting spirit from the New York Giants that I hadn't seen all year, even in our victories. It was weird because I was more proud of the way the New York Giants played in this loss. As frustrated as I may sound, I was more proud of the way the New York Giants played in this loss than they did in their victories against the Washington Redskins and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Because this was a game that was supposed to be over probably by the first half. And it wasn't. It wasn't. We had a chance to win this game, and I truly believe we end up being 3-3 instead of 2-4 if we have our starters. Because the Patriots were just not firing on all cylinders. They were flat out the gates. It took them some turnovers to turn that tide around. Again, they scored 14 points. 14 of their 35 points came off of dumb turnovers by the New York Giants. And they weren't even the interceptions. It's not like the interceptions got returned for pick sixes. No, it was a John Hillman fumble, and a punt block recovery that gave them 14 points. And now I do want to talk about a slightly bright note for the New York Giants offense. I sort of killed Daniel Jones a bit, but he threw a beauty to Golden Tate for 64 yards. A bomb over the shoulder throw to Golden Tate for an accurate throw. Golden Tate did look like he was about to bobble it. Thankfully, Tate held on to it and ran it in for the touchdown. That's essentially, that was also a big play. Coming out of the gates, scoring that quick touchdown, I thought that was really big for the New York Giants. I really thought that was going to lead to more points. Unfortunately, it didn't. But, I'll take the points as they come. Definitely, a good sign and a good note to see Golden Tate as involved as he was. Golden Tate finished the game with 6 receptions, 102 yards, including that one touchdown for 64 yards on 9 targets. Now, in this game, the receivers just had trouble creating separation, and Golden Tate didn't have as many yards after the catch that I would have liked. But, again, good to see him involved. Good to see him get 9 targets. He wasn't involved, and his statistics didn't, it didn't show last week against the Minnesota Vikings. Tate did come out saying he was just a bit unhappy. He didn't necessarily throw the New York Giants offense or Daniel Jones or the coaching staff under the bus. I think the media sort of misconstrued his words, and for obvious reasons, because that's what the media does. They need clicks and they need views, and that's what you guys come here for, so you don't have to go to those crappy media outlets. You get true, authentic opinions on the New York Giants. But Golden Tate was unhappy with his usage last week, and I think obviously with the injuries to Shepard and Evan Engram, that did allow Golden Tate to sort of acclimate himself in a New York Giants uniform and have his first big game with the New York Giants. So kudos to that, and kudos to just a great throw by Daniel Jones on that touchdown. And so plays like that, you kind of see that Daniel Jones does have the capability to make every single NFL throw. Daniel Jones does have the capability to make tight throws as well. They showed this great stat, and I wish I would have caught it on the television screen, but it showed that Daniel Jones had such a high percentage rate. It was called It was called a next gen stat. And it was such a high percentage rate for tight throws that were in tight windows. And it was a completion percentage of Daniel Jones's attempts versus completions in tight windows. And so that stat sort of came out to me too, because I'm like, okay, well, yeah, granted, he only completed 50% of his passes. He threw 3 interceptions, but he's showing that he can make every NFL throw. He's just making bad decisions. And again, he's a rookie quarterback, and this was his, 4th NFL start? So he goes 2-2. Not the end of the world. And I want to remind everyone, because I almost say this every single episode since the season started, I did a week-by-week, game-by-game prediction during the preseason for the New York Giants regular season schedule. At this point in time, I had the New York Giants going 2-4. We were going to drop our first 2. Then we were going to beat Tampa Bay and Redskins to go on a 2-game winning streak. Then we were going to lose to Minnesota and the New England Patriots. And then I have us winning again against the Arizona Cardinals. Essentially, I had us going 9-7. So, folks, we're right on schedule. We're in the middle of October and our football season is still alive. It's not like we only have 1 win, or it's not like we're 0-6. It's not like we're not being competitive at all. At least we have competitive football every Sunday now. At least now we know we have a fighter's chance every single game that we go into. This was not the story of the last couple of years. So, folks, while we may have lost to the New England Patriots, we put up a great fight. And I want everyone to hear this out. And I wish maybe I could have said this earlier on in the episode to make you guys stay, but I had to give the narrative and my post-game reactions to this game first before I get into this point now. We now have almost a week and a half for our next football game. That gives us that much more time for Saquon Barkley to properly heal up, for Wayne Gallman to come out of concussion protocol, for Sterling Shepard to come out of concussion protocol. Evan Engram was practicing. He was a limited participant in practice all week but didn't practice. Now he has a whole week and a half to rest up, treat his knee, and come back for a Week 7 matchup against the Arizona Cardinals. And with that, folks, I think we beat the Arizona Cardinals in Week 7. And if we're healthy, and I know this Detroit Lions defense is a tough defense to play, and I know that we usually end up having trouble against Matt Stafford, The Lions finally have a running game now, so that may cause us some trouble. But I do think, based off of how this defense played against the New England Patriots, if we can keep up that momentum and we're healthy on the offensive side, I think we can beat the Detroit Lions. And then I think we'll even beat the Dallas Cowboys the week after, which will be a home matchup. I think we'll end up winning the next 3 games. We're 2-4 now. Don't be surprised if we go 5-4. Folks, that about wraps it up. That's episode 25 of the Unsportsmanlike Conduct Podcast. Thanks once again for tuning in. Please make sure you subscribe. Follow me on Instagram at _unsportsmanlike_conduct. And also follow me on Twitter. That's _unsportsman. It's your boy HP. Until next time.